What's up, guys? Dr. Nicole here. Welcome back to another episode of Integrative You Radio. So I have been a little resistant to talk about this topic. You know, I think at the end of the day, everybody has a right to choose what is best for them. But a lot of the circulating content is honestly making me a little fucking crazy. So here we are talking about the sober, curious trend. And the thing that can't stop running in my mind as I am seeing this sober, curious trend, because that's what it is at this point. You know, I think that if we use common sense, we know that the consumption of alcohol is not great, you know, for a multitude of reasons. It's essentially a toxin that we are consuming to alter our reality, to change the chemistry of our body. That is going to create issues from the perspective of stressing our organs, creating inflammation, affecting our blood sugar, and altering our behavior. And so, you know, there are certain individuals that it alters their behavior and it removes their fears and it removes their resistance and allows them to be them. Those are, you know, the people that are fun drunks. And then there are individuals that it's going to bring up all of their deep-seated trauma, all of their unconscious fears and belief systems and issues. So, you know, when we want to sit back and think about the consumption of alcohol, you know, it's about how you use it. And I'm not sitting here being an advocate for alcohol, but my perspective is different because of the fact that I have now been in Italy for almost a year. And this isn't just about Italy. This is about the European culture and its relationship with alcohol, with wine, with it being part of the culture. And that's what keeps playing in my mind that needs to be discussed is the culture of alcohol. The culture of alcohol consumption in the US is so unbelievably toxic. And it is something that you almost don't even realize until you go to other places in the world and you realize that the relationship is completely different. And since I've been in Italy, what I realize is that, and this isn't even what I realized, this is what I've blatantly observed. And I want to be clear. I have not been in one place. I have been to over 20 different parts of Italy, maybe even more if you want to include, because I've been to Sicily, but I've been to 10 different places inside of Sicily over the course of a couple of weeks. Like, I have visited many parts of this country. And I've also been to France. I've been to Switzerland. I've been to other places. I've been to London. And if anything, London is probably, you know, the U.S.'s sister country. There's a lot, there is definitely some similarities. But when you get into France, Switzerland, Italy, it's a very different culture. There's very different roots that still live inside of the culture. And this is gonna sound crazy to you guys, but I have not seen a drunk person in all of the places that I visited in over a year. I have not seen a drunk person. I have not seen a person stumbling. I have not seen a person being belligerent. I have not seen a person that doesn't know where they are, that can't call a cab for themselves. I have been in Paris. Like, I have been in Rome. I have been in Florence. I have been in big cities. And I have been out at later hours. Definitely not past midnight, guys. Sorry. So, you know, maybe it's a different ball game once you're out past midnight. But that in America, you see drunk people out and about all hours of the day. If it's a Saturday or a Sunday and you're out at a restaurant, there are drunk people. There are people that are drinking in excess. It is not the same here. It is not the same in a lot of the European cultures. And that is something that has been so eye-opening to me. And yes, they drink at an earlier age. They're able to drink at 18. If you want to get into Germany, they can drink pretty much by the age of 14. They don't have this toxic relationship with alcohol because one, they're being brought up with a healthier relationship with it. It's not being like, don't drink, don't look at it, don't do this, don't do that. If anything, families are like, if you're a young teenager, have a little bit of wine, it's Christmas or it's a holiday. And they're not making it a big deal because at the end of the day, the more you want to take something away, the more that it's desired. That's just human psychology. And so, when you talk to Europeans and they're like, it is so wild that you guys can't have a legal glass of wine or a drink until you're 21 years old. How is that playing in to this very, very imbalanced culture of alcohol consumption? And as I mentioned, is the idea of drinking in excess. I observe everything. And we go out quite a bit here, out to eat, out for an aperitivo. And when you're sitting there, you do not see people ordering quickly and you don't see people ordering in excess. You don't see, tables of 2 or 3 or 4 people going through multiple bottles of wine. You're seeing 2 to 4 people share 1 bottle of wine. You're seeing, if people having 1 to 2 beers over the course of 2 hours. You're not seeing, 10 beers over the course of 2 hours, which is a normal cadence in the US. And so you also don't see people going out just to drink and get drunk. People are going out for an experience of food, and very often they choose to pair that food with mainly wine, to be honest. I was saying to my husband when we first got here, I'm like, it's really not that easy to get a cocktail. Like, and if anything, there's not a lot of places that make a good cocktail because it's not common. Cocktails are reserved if you are going to go out for music or dancing later in the later hours. But overall, it's more wine consumption than anything else. And that kind of brings me to the second point is that there is an art to it. And there is the art of wine pairing, the art of wine being a focal point of a beautiful tasting menu or a beautiful dinner. Like there is an art to that. There is a beauty to that. And again, these people are not going out to a 5, 6, 8, course tasting menu because they want to get hammered off the wine pairing. They're going out and they're looking for this experience that is enhancing their taste buds. It's opening flavor profiles that they maybe haven't experienced before. They're looking for the beautiful art of the food and the wine that are creating this harmony in their mouth, essentially. There's so much beauty to that. And the fact that most of the wines here are biodynamic by default because the winemakers in European countries, a lot of them are small production. They're families that are creating this wine. They're literally picking the freaking grapes by hand because that's the way they've always done it. There is so much heart and soul and love that is still put in to the winemaking process because they're preserving the roots of their family. They're preserving the history of the winemaking process that their family started generations ago. And they want to put out a product that enhances the experience of a dinner, that enhances the experience of a holiday. That's what it's about. And so I think that we're doing a huge disservice to the American culture by creating this divide, this polarization of drink, don't drink. What about educating people and showcasing what it looks like to look at alcohol from a different perspective, to look at it from a perspective of art, to look at it from a perspective of generations being preserved in families, to look at it from how does this open different parts of your brain by expanding your flavor profile or your taste profile. How do you create a beautiful dinner experience with the most perfectly paired wines? Like, this is what's going to create the change. We think that, they decided, oh, there's a imbalance relationship with alcohol, so let's make the drinking age 21. That didn't help anything. And if anything, it perpetuated a bigger problem. It perpetuated a bigger desire of, why can I not have this? Especially in those curious teenage years where your brain is so curious about everything. And we put alcohol on a pedestal, and this has perpetuated the very, very, very toxic culture around alcohol consumption. And literally, you go to other countries and it fucking blows your mind when you're fresh out of America. You're just like, how is there, like, it's such a non-issue. Alcoholism, it exists, of course, but it's such a non-issue compared to the US. Like, I think back of times I'm like, I could have been classified as an alcoholic with how much I consumed, but how much I consumed was nowhere near what other people consumed. It was just alcohol became, it was the way that we went out. Oh, let's go out and have drinks. Like, here we just go out and it's not about drinks. It's about, let's go walk around. Maybe we'll go have a spritz while we're walking around. Let's go have an espresso. Let's go have a cappuccino. Let's go have a beautiful dinner. And if that dinner, is something that we want to pair wine with, then we'll do it. But it's not a focus of going out. Growing up, that was like, us girlfriends calling each other on the phone was, where are we going tonight? And are we going to a bring your own? Are we going, are we meeting up at the bar? That's another thing. There are no bars. You can't sit at a bar and drink. Like, if next time you come to Europe, observe that. That is something that I said. I didn't notice it right at first, but then I was like, there are no bars. You can't sit at a bar. And again, I'm sure that there are late night spots that do have this feature, but even some of the bars that they're classified as bars. The one that I love in Positano, it's tables. It's tables, and you sit at a table with whomever you're with. Like, you don't sit at a bar. They don't. That's not part of the culture. Is to sit at a bar by yourself and just drink, drink, and drink, and drink. And it's sitting at a table because alcohol is really about. It's not even about. It's part of bringing people together for food and conversation. And it's such a small part. It's not a focus. So that is definitely another interesting observation. Like, how many times have you seen or been the person that you're having a rough day and you go sit at a bar and you're just trying to unwind with a glass of wine or a cocktail? Like, you can't do that here because it's not a thing. And so these little things actually are things that they don't think about here, but they're things that are deterring people away from overconsumption of alcohol. And even when you are out for an aperitivo, it's Italy. Things are slower paced. You honestly can't really get drunk even if you tried, because it's just no server or waiter or waitress is thinking about coming over to your table because you need a new beer every 20 minutes. They're just, the mindset is completely different. It's just, you're here to sit outside or sit at a table and have conversation and, and enjoy a drink slowly. So it's definitely something that I feel very passionately about, because I don't think that we're fixing the problem by creating this polarized movement of don't drink alcohol. And, alcohol there should be warning labels on the alcohol the way that there is cigarettes. Yeah, no shit there should be. It's fucking poison. Like that's the thing. The other part of this that I find so interesting, and I always have the most interesting conversations and where I gain knowledge. I'm just such a forever learner. But when I lived in Charleston, I went to this natural nails place. And I would go there, when there were holidays or different things that I wanted to get my nails done for. But then it just so happened that the individual that I would always go to, it was a male. And he originally was in the alcohol industry. He worked for a big time distillery in Kentucky. And we just got to talking about different things. And he pretty much explained that because he knew the industry that I was in. And, I was just saying, I was like, so much of alcohol now it's not what it used to be. Back in the day, gin was made from juniper berries. And it was like a plant-derived alcohol. Nowadays, he was explaining that pretty much all alcohol, gin, vodka, bourbon, even bourbon, because obviously he was in Kentucky where, bourbon, if it comes from this bourbon district of Kentucky, it could be called bourbon. But now there's places all over the country that are saying that they produce bourbon, even though it's not out of Kentucky. And, he's like, one, there's a lot of loopholes now, but two, he's like, everything being put out there is a compound liquor that's flavored as whatever it's being marketed as. So essentially everything is this corn grain derived liquor that is similar to what we would call like Everclear, a very, very low quality grain alcohol produced from genetically modified corn and grain. And that is then getting flavored with chemicals like propylene glycol to be gin, to be vodka, to be bourbon, to be whiskey. So that's the other part of this that people aren't talking about is that, yes, it's harmful. It's more harmful than it ever has been. And it's because that's what you're drinking. You're not drinking what you think you're drinking. You are drinking the most insane toxic chemicals. You're getting exposed to chemicals, flavor agents, dyes, because if it's a compound liquor like Everclear and it's being then classified as bourbon, bourbon is brown in color. They're obviously using very specific agents to make it brown in color because it's not naturally brown. So that's the other part of this. And then don't even get me fucking started on the seltzers and the toxic shit. Anytime something has to go into a can or a bottle, they have to use major preservatives and chemical agents in order for it to be stable in a can or a bottle. I had a friend who he actually created this, what did he call it? He called it shit because it was Sandy Hook iced tea. And it, like maybe a different iteration of a Long Island iced tea. And I remember, I was good friends with his sister and, everybody raved about this drink that he made. He would make it for barbecues, summer, holidays, etc. And somebody caught wind of it and they said, this is amazing. You should bottle it. And he threw in the towel because in the bottling process, they completely changed the recipe. They added a boatload of chemicals. They made it had to be carbonated in order to be bottled. And he's like, this is not what I used to make. Like, this is not a product that I feel passionate about. And this is garbage. So he was just like, I don't feel passionate about this anymore and decided to not move forward. So, kind of a side tangent, but the point is that, yes, alcohol is very toxic, but the irony is that when you come to a place like Europe, especially Italy, and you have a glass of wine, one, you're not getting buzzed off wine immediately. And you're also not getting a headache. You're not getting a stomach ache. You're not having that experience. You're truly experiencing the art of wine. you're truly experiencing what it was intended for, which is to enhance a meal because it's not filled with a bunch of shit. And the same thing goes if you're going to have a cocktail here. It's just it, the standards are completely different. So this is about changing the culture around alcohol and not just telling people just don't drink, because curiosity will kill the cat. Curiosity will still exist. And so if you have a family and you have kids that are growing up and they're part of the US, or they're in the US and they're observing this toxic culture, it's your job to educate them, to help them understand some of these things, to understand that alcohol is perceived differently in other countries, that alcohol is really something that can enhance a meal, that there is a beauty and an art when you learn about the production and the creation of winemaking. Like there can be some really beautiful things that come out of that. And this isn't just about consuming alcohol because that's the only way that you can go out and spend time with your friends, or to sit at a bar on a weekend and binge drink. Like that's not what this is about. Yes, that is a very toxic behavior. And it's something that is creating so many fucking problems culturally in the US. It is creating, like, alcoholism is almost normalized at this point. Going out and having 10 drinks in one night is almost like, oh, I had a good time. I feel like shit the next day and I have to eat a bunch of shitty food to try to make my stomach not hurt. Like it's a crazy idea when you really, really think about it. And I do think experience is the teacher of all things. And you don't know what you don't know until you step outside. And if you haven't had the opportunity to come to a place like France or Italy, come and observe. Bring your kids and let them observe so they can see that there can be a very different relationship with alcohol, with wine, with drinking, that is not resulting in using alcohol for, depression or mental health issues, or the only way that you could feel brave or fearless in your life, or the only way that you can get together with your friends. Like that's the problem, in my opinion. So there's my rant, and I hope this is informative, and I really hope that this can inspire better conversations, especially if you're parents, around this topic, because I do think that this, polarization of drink or be sober is going to create its own set of issues in either the immediate or the future.